Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Nate's Infernal Travel Agency, my D&D campaign that I am dungeon mastering, DMing? Direct messaging for my friends. For this campaign, I have chosen to have my players go through Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. I was very interested in this module when it first was announced. The moniker Mad Max in Hell that I kept hearing everywhere intrigued me. A previous D&D group that I was a part of had gone on an indefinite hiatus, so I decided to be the DM I wish to see in the world and host this campaign for any holdovers from that team and any newcomers interested in playing. A brief synopsis of my history with D&D. I first started in 3.5 and quickly bounced off that wall of rule and regulation. Then I transferred into 4th edition during college, where I quickly found a love for the camaraderie and fun. And then by the time 5th edition rolled around, I was ready to jump into the first campaign offered me. I'm a fan of Critical Role, The Adventure Zone, Acquisitions Incorporated, Matt Colville, When He Does Anything, and the odd amateur D&D show. Sorry. Anyway, let's get started on how this thing is going to go and what you're in for. 1. This is my first ever show. It's gonna be rough, but hopefully it will evolve. Bear with me. 2. I'll be narrating the overall story of my player's journey through Avernus, so obvious spoilers are obvious. Also, if my players are watching this, I can't stop you. That was an empty threat. 3. That said, I have and intend to continue to modify the module in whatever way I see fit. So enjoy the twists you may know from the book, and some you won't see coming at all. 4. I'll also be doing side notes for my reasonings and thought processes as a DM. I'm still relatively new as a dungeon master. I've mostly done homebrew content, and this is my first time integrating a module into my playstyle. Feel free to critique anything you see issues with, and or borrow anything that seems to interest you. Rules and regulations. Rolling up characters. I've done point buy, standard array, as well as rolling. I find that rolling is the most interesting. I'm also aware that probability can be a real bitch sometimes, so I offer my players some options when it comes to character creation. These include rolling a set with advantage. It's basically what it says. You roll your standard 4 dice and drop the lowest one. You roll the entire set of 6 abilities and arrange the results however you want. Then, you can roll another set and see what the differences are. You cannot mix and match. It's one set or the other. I know this sounds like a big handhold for the players, but people play D&D for many different reasons, and I want to give my players the ability to get what they came for. If being a badass is on the list, there you go. Plus, I found that contrasting results can sometimes be a truly tough decision. Do they want that 18 out of the gate, but also have that 7 to deal with? Or do they want to go the safe route, where they have 12s across the board? Dice distribution. Now, the new creation system I came up with for this campaign I'm actually somewhat proud of, because I think it keeps with the themes of the module, namely, deals and sacrifice. You're dealing with devils, it's always going to have some sort of backfiring, some sort of caveat, some sort of loophole you didn't see coming. Instead of rolling 4 dice 6 times and arrange the sums however they want, I allow my players to roll 18 dice all at once and arrange the individual dice into groups for each attribute. Some quick math reveals that each ability only has 3 dice to draw from, some classic D&D rolling baked in there. This is where my pride comes in. This is a deal I offer my players. They can roll sets with advantage first and see what they get. However, if they choose this method of rolling, they can't go back and have to make the numbers work for them as best they can. It's tempting because it's a level of customization that the previous style could not contend with, but there's a very real chance you could end up severely lacking in one or more areas. You want that 18 again? Sure, take it. It'll only cost you a 6 in another stat. Truly my first devil's deal as the DM of this Avernus campaign. Rule of cool and moving forward. Beyond character creation, I make sure that my players understand that my games are run for fun, not competition, or adhering strictly to rules for the sake of doing so. I follow the rule of cool, meaning that if I find it interesting, exciting, or satisfying for myself and the players, I will at least let them try. My games are meant to make memories and not moderators. I'm also fully aware that none of us know every single rule there is to know in the game or any of the extended books. Therefore, if we find something we've been doing wrong up until this point, we correct it and keep moving forward. No retroactively changing any roles, always look forward. Unearthed Arcana. Keeping with those allowances, I also don't mind if a player wants to use some Unearthed Arcana. It's playtest material, so let's test it. One of my players in this campaign is using a UA subclass for their character, and so far it hasn't been game-breaking. By now you've probably gotten the gist of the type of game I run, but I want to clarify a couple points so you don't end up screaming through your eyes at me. I believe that a player should be who they want to be. D&D was meant to be a cooperative, imaginative, escapist experience for everyone to enjoy. All players should be given the chance to explore their characters to the best of their available options. If someone has taken the time to find a subclass that speaks to them, I'm happy to look over it and either approve or modify what I see to make it the best outcome for everyone. Having overpowered players. To me, an OP party equals OP encounters. You're going to see some characters get some pretty cool stuff down the road. Some of it they earned on sheer creativity, and some I decided to leave out in front of them to see if they'd take it. I know some DMs can be very particular about doling out magic items, but I find that the more powerful the party, the crazier the encounter I can justify putting them in. It makes more interesting encounters for me to build, and I think they enjoy it too. I am all for exploring the full trajectories of a character's potential. Speaking of characters, let's meet the team. First up, we have Rasslehead Lockton, the broiest, fist-throwingest, drawing-mappiest, out-of-towner of the group. He's out exploring the country to leave a mark on the world for the better. All of this despite his ancestral progenitor, Baphomet. Everyone from his rock-top clan of Minotaurs knows that their souls ultimately belong to Big Bath. Many simply accept it, others try to pack as much benevolence into their lives as possible to piss off their parents. Kind of like rebellious teenagers, but joining the Scouts instead of underage drinking and rock music. Next up, we have Ami Poigrand, a small-town boy with big grand plans to be a great wizard one day. He's a hard-working, results-driven, type A+ personality. With that temperament, he was first in his farming community to be accepted into his local branch of Community Wizards College. Having so much riding on his shoulders, he was devastated to learn that he did not have much natural aptitude when it came to practical application of magic. However, through hard work and his by any means necessary attitude, he somehow found a way to graduate and land a job as an ambassador/liaison to Baldur's Gate. Third in our band of endeavorers of devilish dealings is the lovable plank of wood, shaped like a dragonborn, Zolik. Though mild-mannered, he discovered he had a knack for hitting things, as well as people. After serving some time as part of the guard in Waterdeep, he decided to take his talents on the road as a freelance bodyguard and ultimately found his way to Baldur's Gate to help protect his newfound friend group. Fun fact about Zolik, despite his personality basically being a blank canvas, his palate is not. Little known to everyone else, he's secretly quite the foodie, and traveling as a mercenary affords him the opportunity to taste all sorts of different dishes. Adding some planar diversity to the group is the Fire Genasi Ashen. Sharing some educational background with Ami, he's also a college boy, but is currently taking some time off to go on an adventure to broaden his horizons and gain some worldly experience. Although he aspires to be a student of natural sciences, Ashen is a very go-with-the-magma flow kind of guy, a trait he inherited from his father, a semi-professional magma stream volcano surfer. Ashen is hoping that his natural talent for magic, in combination with the skills he gains from this adventure, will be enough to change the status quo for his family when he returns to his home on the Plane of Fire. Finally, we have Virgil. What to say about Virgil? Well, Virgil got really into the 60s, and no one really ever saw him again. But in all seriousness, there is not much to say about Virgil because I never really got a background from his player. That being said, I think it's safe to say you could call Virgil a strung-out ex-rocker type combined with some Devil May Cry traits. A man of haunted looks and very little conversation, he is handy to have in a fight and occasionally has ways of deterring foes from putting the party in a disadvantageous position. He seems to be a man seeking purpose and meaning in his life. Maybe he'll get it on this adventure. Baldur's Gate. You will never find a more wretched hive of edgelords and lone wolf NPCs. The city is settled on the shores of the Keonthar River and is currently besieged by waves of refugees from its neighboring city of Elturel. You could say that Baldur's Gate is the renegade to Elturel's paragon, and our heroes find themselves slipping into the city just in time to see the gates slam shut, cutting off the influx of desperate homeless Elturelians. Those of the refugees who have made it in find themselves being roughly accosted and beat the shit out of by the Flaming Fist, a mercenary group hired by the Dukes of Baldur's Gate to act as a policing force for the city. As it turns out, for plot convenience, each of the party members has been subcontracted by the Flaming Fist and are recognized by the local officers. They are instructed to report to one Captain Zaj for a briefing on the situation in the city. Stepping into an officer's guardhouse by the Basilisk Gate, the party meets a stern-looking human male who quickly takes them in with a discerning eye. Rassel tries flexing and showing off to reassure the captain of his choices in life, while Virgil broods in the corner. Ami quickly establishes himself as the group frontman and discusses the current situation in the city with the captain. As it turns out, the Flaming Fist leader and Archduke of the city, Older Ravengard, hasn't been heard from in weeks. On a diplomatic mission to Elturel, he seems to have disappeared along with the city. Zaj has put in a request for a ranking officer, one Liara Portier, niece of another duke of the city. She is the leader of the Flaming Fists on the island of Chult, but she won't make landfall for days yet. Aside from the lack of top brass leadership, the seemingly endless waves of refugees are causing logistical problems for the Flaming Fist, and among those refugees are Hell Riders, Knights of Elturel who happen to not be in the city, who the Fist are convinced are going to cause nothing but trouble for the city of Baldur's Gate. But the ultimate drain on resources is a death cult calling themselves the Dead Three that has been murdering and kidnapping people of all societal ranks across the city. Zaj's men are overwhelmed at the moment and need to hire extra help, namely the party, to investigate a potential lead and report what they find. As a side note, I found this particular hook for the module to be relatively weak. Why would the party care about this situation? And why would the Flaming Fist hire them for any reason at all? So I tweaked it a little bit, and I decided that Captain Zaj actually has an inkling of who might have been behind Older Ravengard's disappearance. I have him suspect the Vanthampure family, but needs to appear diplomatically neutral. So he's hiring them under the table to be his eyes and ears and potentially muscle against the Vanthampure conspiracy. The team is given a name and a place. One Tarina at the Elfsong Tavern. She is a known fence for information. If anyone has their ear to the ground about the Dead Three cult, it's Tarina. With a contract agreeing to 10,000 gold pieces to find out how deep this shithole goes, the party is unofficially deputized and heads out to the Elfsong Tavern. Will the party find out what's been going on around the city? Will the Dead Three try to kill them along the way to the tavern? Will I produce the next episode in a timely manner? We will find out next time on Nate's Infernal Travel Agency. Hey everyone, thank you for watching my first episode of Nate's Infernal Travel Agency. First off, I would like to apologize for the incredible lateness of this first episode. It has been quite the learning process for me. Even between the first half and the second half of this episode, I have learned to refine a large part of my process. So hopefully the next episode will be coming out sooner rather than later. Also, I do intend on having my narration be more story-driven next time. I chose to give you a glimpse of how I DM, how my players started up in this campaign, as well as my general philosophy for D&D, so you have somewhat accurate expectations for what's to come in future episodes. Anyway, that should do it for my post-episode ramblings. I hope to see you all for the next one.